good, Phillies fans? What's going on, everybody who is new to the Phillies Sports Talk Podcast YouTube channel? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Philadelphia Phillies Talk Podcast. But before we get into it, if anybody who's new to the channel, make sure you smash that like button here on the stream, like the stream up, share the stream up. And if you guys are new to the channel, click that red subscribe button with the notification bell turned on. But yeah, before we get right into it, happy opening day to all baseball fans, whether in the American League or the National League. So, kind of able to do like a little late night Phillies Talk podcast, kind of give my thoughts, especially with the Phillies opening up on Friday against the Oakland A's, which is going to be very exciting. But yeah, obviously I think we all, not just me as a Phillies fan, but other baseball fans, we've been finally waiting for this. But kind of go over some like recent stuff. Obviously, Mickey Moniak is out for 6 weeks with a broken wrist. Which is unfortunate to say the least. Because I think Kevin Long, who is the Phillies' new hitting coach, I think he figured out something with Mickey Moniak. I think he figured out Mickey Moniak's hitting problem. Unfortunately, he's got to spend the on the IL for some time. But they did call up another outfield prospect, Simon Mosinati. I apologize if I'm butchering his name. But and then Bryson Stott gets the nod, or gets the call to be here on the Major League roster, which that's going to be very exciting because I think us Phillies fans, like myself included, we've kind of been raving on Bryson Stott since the Phillies took him 14th overall. Obviously, in the first round of the 2019 MLB draft, probably one of the highest regarded shortstop prospects. That's going to be exciting because I think like I mentioned before my Bryson Stott video, I think he's going to be another good lefty bat to really help out Harper in the especially in the lineup. Where this next team, if you look at it, 1 through 6 is pretty much stacked. And I know the only huge question mark is the last 3 hitters, but I think I think what Bryson Stott can bring to you is just like the way I can describe Stott, like he does have some pop, and he knows how to get on base too. So if you think about it this way, if you have someone like Harper, Hoskins, Stott, who can hit well and actually be on base machines, that's going to put a lot of pressure on some defenses going into this opening season. So, obviously the Phillies will open up against the Oakland, basically the abysmal Oakland Athletics after they just pretty much did a fire sale in this all season and during free agency. Just one of those the A's are just one of those rebuilding teams. So I think the Phillies, are gonna at least try to take a somewhat of advantage to what do you call it? Try to at least go for a sweep against Oakland because I'll be honest. I think the best player they have left on that team is Frankie Montas. I thought he was, a solid starter for them, but I think that's pretty much about it. It's just, obviously, yeah, people say, our defense is going to be bad. Yeah, that's going to come down to that. But, it's just, I think, I don't think, because think of it this way. If you score like 15, 20 runs a game, I don't think you really don't have to worry about that. But I'm not going to speak ahead of myself at all. But it's just how this team, when we were let's go back, I think the last couple of years, what's the one game? I guess tomorrow. Let's take the Marlins game for example. Obviously, one of the other National League teams we're going to be seeing for majority of the year, because it's like how this team just wants to not really want to do, or just basically just kind of wants to knock a lot of, kind of just be a thorn in our side. It's basically like say, if we're up double digits, we find a way to blow the double digits. So that's kind of a bit of a concern a little bit, but I think obviously Nola going for game Friday against Frankie Montas. You got Gibson going game 2, and then you got Eflin going for game 3. Or I think Rangel Suarez is going game 3. But I think And I think and this is gonna probably be another video in itself about I think Aaron Nola is gonna have a bounce back year because I think and at times it kind of shows at times it's like I think it's just more a mental thing with Nola at times, and sometimes he has the tendency to over rely on certain pitches, which kind of also can explain at times he's having a hard time putting away hitters with two strikes. And if you think about it, like in the spring, like obviously the spring training really doesn't really mean anything because obviously it gets people their players the reps. From what I saw from Nola, like I think he actually kind of and there are times like some innings like he at times over relied, especially over relied on his fastball a little bit. Um, but I don't. I mean, like the velocity is good. I think the changeup looks great. I mean, his curveball is still disgusting as usual. I think it's just like I said. I think it would just be a mental and a confidence thing. I think if Caleb Collins pretty much Caleb Collins, who is the current Phillies pitching coach, like kind of pull on the side, just like have a word and say, look, you cannot just be overlying like on certain pitches. Like it's like a lot of hitters are going to pick up on that, and I guess it's just like it's at times it's going to bite you in the ass, but at times and we've seen pitchers do that, and then sometimes it has success with it. But in case with Nola, at times it's like he has a hard time putting away with hitters with two strikes. And it frustrates a lot of us Phillies fans because it's like Nola is still a good number. Well, technically now he's a number two guy in the rotation since, let's be real, I think we all know that Zach Wheeler is the ace of the staff. I think Nola is a good number two. It just seems that obviously he finished with a 9.9 record. I think over like a 3, almost like a 4 ERA last year. So for me, if I want to have to give a guess of like how he wants to, finish this year, I think he's going to at least get because here's what I'll say. I think I want to see Nola be back to his Cy Young self, which was back in 2017, 2018. Hell, he almost made another run for it, and back in 2019. So I mean, he had three, dominant for us. Because he's still got good stuff for a guy who can be from like 92 to 94 and occasionally tops out at 95 on the fastball with a good curveball and a changeup and a good sinker to go along with that combination. But like I said, so there are times like he does at times rely on, especially the fastball. And I think at times like he over and I think I said this last time in my last show in the last episode too, or maybe I didn't, but I did kind of mention the idea, said something about like that Nola has a tendency to over rely on certain pitches, and that one of those pitches is his fastball. And like the Blue Jays game, for example, in spring training, has a couple of hitters down with two strikes, gives up back-to-back solo shots, but it looked like at times like that really didn't bother him to say the least, in a way that a lot of pitchers will like get super rattled, like couldn't find the strike zone. But after I think when Nola gave up those back-to-back shots, like it just seems like he had no problems getting the other hitters out. So I was like, yeah, it kind of gets things. I think it's just like more of like a mental and a confidence thing with Nola. Oh yeah. It is, and that's the thing too. Like I think with Nola, and like I said too, Nola at times. Like when he's good, he is just unhittable, and we've seen flashes of that, in many different occasions too. Like, he's capable to throw a no hitter if he wanted to. Like when he's on, like he's just unhittable. But and they many Phillies fans, even myself included, we know when he's off, he gets knocked around like a punching bag, basically. But that's just how I see at times with this team. Just wants to basically kind of it's just like, obviously, like I said, or like I mentioned, obviously having, a lot of great hitters in this lineup, obviously, going to have below average defense. Obviously with Bryson Stott, I think he's going to probably be other than Gene Segura, who's actually, and that's the thing too, Gene Segura is not that bad defensively. I think he's still an above average defenders, and I said too about Bryson Stott too. It's like I think Stott has some good defense. I think there's going to be some rookie struggles with him. But yeah, it's just like this team is going to be very interesting to watch. Going to this year, obviously with the expanded playoffs. Obviously, minus with an extra wild card spot. So, one of my old buddy and my sports talk podcast co-host Tyler Coleman, we kind of agreed that this team, and I think a lot of Phillies fans can see this team as a wild card team because I think we're far from being winning the division because I think the Braves still have this division locked down. When it comes to the second place, it's going to be a tough race though because it's like because usually most of the time because it's always like a 3-team race here in the National Leagues. It's going to be us, the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets. That's always how it's been the last couple of years, minus that 2020 shortened season. It just shows at times it's the NL East is competitive, but it's not super competitive like in the West. Think about it in football terms. It's like how okay, so let's take the national. Let's do this in football talk. The National League is going to be like the NFC, and you got the American League for the AFC. Because usually the American League, most times not, it's always the the more competitive league. Because obviously baseball, you got 2 leagues, the American and the National League. Now with the Universal DH in place, which I don't know why you took it out of especially last season, but the fact that now you're let this to be full time in the new CBA, which I'm really all for because I want to see pitchers to stay healthy for some. But yeah, I just think this team is. I think the Phillies. I know there's going to be some struggles along the way, which let's be real, that's always kind of been their MO at times. It's just that and I love the Phillies more. I love this team to death, though. But I mean, and actually, seeing this team fully healthy, which is really great to see because, and I said this too. I think one time in the show, I think I think Hoskins is going to be one of the key, other than Castellanos and Schwarber, who's going to be, going to be one of those one of our other power hitters. I think Hoskins needs to find a way to stay healthy. Just because it's how last year, obviously went down with the core injury, which I think really hurt us going down the stretch. Because obviously, Hoskins was just an on-base machine, was getting hot at the right time with on-one with Harper. But unfortunately, Harper had to carry the rest of this team last year on his back. And unfortunately, that kind of gave him the National League MVP. Now, and obviously, even some of these, other prospects that I've seen, Bryson Stott had a great spring. Obviously, well deserved to get the call to the major leagues to be on the opening day roster. Let's be real, I'd rather have him start over than Alec Boehm because at times Alec Boehm I can't trust because obviously, like I said, the 2020 shortened season was the worst time for baseball. And with Boehm, granted, it was a short sample size of what this kid can bring to the table. But if you looked at some of the numbers that he put up in his first full season, it was, the way I could describe it is below average, to say the least. And I'm just seeing how it is. And I think with Bryson Stott, I mean, it's just. And seeing what these veterans have to say about this kid, and let's be real, I think he's kind of wise beyond his years, and just seeing, and Nick Castellanos just basically call him, he's basically cool as a cucumber, and the way how he handles himself, especially, this is he has a couple of run-ins, has played a couple of, some spring training games with the big league club. It kind of just shows this kid's development, especially in playing the Arizona Fall League, which I do think it really did help refine how this kid wants to approach the game, especially now going into his very first game as a major leaguer. Because I think it just shows that this team, Yeah, granted, we have not the best. We don't have the best hard system by any stretch of the imagination. But it does shows that this team, like, we have some hidden gems in this atrocious farm system. And I think another content creator kind of brought this up too, because the way that somebody like compared us to like the Tigers back in the early 2010s, like 2013, 2014, where we like the worst defensive team. And then and this is when Dombrowski was still under that regime over in Detroit. Let's kind of make that example. But Detroit, it's just like Detroit found a way, even with having Dombrowski in the front office. I think made the right moves, and I think this is what Dombrowski is trying to do. Is try to do what he did in Detroit. Is try to build a team. Yeah, I know this team's going to be horrible defensively, but if we can put up a ton of runs and pitch well, I think we should be okay. I mean, okay to say the least in that certain aspects of it. Just because it's like you want to have, I mean, yeah, and like I said too, like this team is going to be, way below average when it comes to defending, but I don't think we're not going to be like super terrible. But I think we have going to have like a meh defense, but I think we can still make some plays in the, defensively. See, and like I said too, like some of these guys who were playing hurt kind of, helped and kind of slowed things down a little bit. Obviously with Didi with the elbow inflammation, Hoskins going down with the core injury, Real Muto dealing with like concussion protocol, shoulder problem, definitely a broken thumb during spring training. Like he dealt with a lot, and a lot of people still criticize him for regressing. Like, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of good players regressed. I mean, the one I can think you can definitely get make an art. You can definitely see that regress terribly, and that's Cody Bellinger with the Dodgers. Like, it just shows that sometimes I think even on this team, I think someone's going to have bounce back years. I know I definitely Real Muto is going to have a bounce back year. Granted, he did regress a little bit, but I think he's still the best catcher in baseball. And it's just like this team is just like on paper we got some great talent. I mean, though the bullpen is suspect as hell. But if the bullpen can do its job and not blow, because like last year we led the league in blown saves with 34. Like that, and it was a huge question mark for this Phillies team. It's just how this team wants, if they want to perform to end this decade-long run without the postseason. It just shows that this team, or not the team, but the bullpen needs to step up. Obviously, adding Corey Knebel in there. Obviously, I haven't familiar, and a lot of people, and I said this too. Even when I made that video, I know a lot of people had mixed feelings with him because it's like, and even I know some Mets fans off screen, like he's just kind of erratic, but like once he's on, and I've seen games where when he's on, like, and I can, and when he pitched, and even when he pitched against us, like when he's on, like he's just tough to hit. Because it's like he has an upper 90s fastball, which is a sinker. He does have a split, which is, I think that's going to be an interesting pitch to see for him. Corey Knebel, I know he's going to be our closer because I think and I said this in one of my videos that when I made it about the free agency, this before the lockout, it's just like like out of the who was a free agent. I mean, Chris Hill was on that list. Corey Knebel. Like, the one guy I wanted to go after, at least to start with the bullpen pieces, is Corey Knebel, because I think you get someone like him who actually had a pretty decent year with the Dodgers. I think even though he did pitch decently in the postseason, so I mean, I think having someone like him who actually had a pretty good, decent, run during his time with the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see how some of these new additions are going to do. Obviously, there's going to be some that we're not going to have. Obviously, Jojo Romero is on the 60-day IL. I don't know the status report for Alvarado, but I think he might be getting close to being healthy. Coonrod, I think he's starting to. I think they put him on the IL. I don't even know how far he is on the IL, so to speak. But it just shows that this team I don't know. It's just like this team just wants to kind of just talk about, basically just go because it's like look, if they get a little like okay, so I'll say this: if they want to like the ultimate goal for right now for this year is try to make the playoffs. So we can end it because let's be real. And I said this to, and I think all Phillies fans, we dealt with it. We've seen this. We have not seen postseason baseball in over 10 years. I'll say that because that's kind of a pain in the ass to not experience for the first since 2011. So yeah, we kind of fed up with it. Obviously, with the expanded playoffs having an extra wild card spot, I think it's going to push like some of these teams like us, the Mets, definitely you can and other teams like too like to really grind out to get those other wild card spots. That's just how this team is though. It just you got it, and I think it's just how this team wants to perform because like the last couple of years we've performed to like at least to average, but at least some below average expectations because we really never have high expectations for this team because there's still a lot of question marks with this team. Obviously, with the outfield, bullpen has always been a huge question mark for us, despite making some new arms into the bullpen. Also, definitely picking up Johan Camargo to help out, be that other utility guy to help off the bench. Also, bring about Ronald Torreyes, which I'll be honest, can't let because I think with Ronald Torreyes, even last year, like he actually provided a huge spark plug, and when he was really called upon, when he had his number called upon, and even times like when Bones was sent down to the minor leagues, our third baseman was Ronald Torreyes, and still a good defender. He can still swing the bat well, even though he's not your home. That's not a home run here, but he can still find a way to get on base for you and get the offense started. Because you don't like seeing how this team wants to, because it kind of gets you thinking too. It's like, I mean, we've been through so many like different like coaching changes, front office changes. Obviously, changing our scouting department, which is probably one of our weakest when it comes to the front offices. We are just weak when it comes to scouting. Now, it's gonna be interesting how to see this scouting department and these player development wants to deal with. Obviously having Jimmy Rollins being the special advisor to Dave Dombrowski, and then you have Howie Kendrick. I thought he enjoyed his time here. Have him as part of the player development squad, which I think Kendrick's another guy I think you could definitely learn a thing or two from. I think he was still an above average hitter and above average defender. During some of this time, it's like, I mean, obviously he does have a World Series ring in his back pocket. So obviously back in 2019 with the Washington Nationals. But yeah, I think this team is going to be. I think many Phillies fans were excited. Now it's just like I'm not even like, yeah, we might be excited, but I'm not really getting my hopes up because I think I mean, look, on paper, we have some great talent. We have some good talent on this team, but I don't think we're going to make a deep playoff push like some of these teams like the Dodgers, the Giants, Atlanta, Chicago White Sox. Like, the list can go on. Some of these division winners. It's like we don't have we don't have that kind of luxury. Yeah, granted, we did go over the luxury tax threshold in order to get Nick Castellanos. Probably one of the worst, and yeah, probably when it comes to advanced metrics, like his numbers is just way below average. But I think, and it just shows at times too, like Castellanos does make it up at times from horrible defensive metrics, but to just great, just he can just rake. That's all I had to say about this team. It's just like 1 through 6, we are sacked 1 through 6, but the back end of it is kind of questionable because it's like you got Didi there. Definitely, I think Mac Vernon is going to be down. I think probably the 8 or the 9 spot, 7 or I think the 7 spot. But yeah, it's just like we got some decent talent, and we got some decent talent in the bullpen. I wish we could have done a lot more. But I don't think we're going to be done making some moves yet. But I have a feeling we're going to find a way to flip some players at the trade deadline this year. It's just it is what it is, though. But yeah, I mean, it's just I appreciate it for those who are kind of tuning in, though. Make sure you leave a like on the stream, share this out, definitely share my channel out. We are 5 subscribers away from 400. But yeah, before we go any further, I will be holding a 400 subscriber giveaway. You guys do not want to miss out. Just so make sure you click that red subscribe button down below. But yeah, let's kind of talk forward a little bit. It's just how. And look, I get it. The starting rotation is not the best. I mean, I know Zach Wheeler is going to be. I mean, he's not going to be ready by opening day. But I do think he's going to be ready in some later games. So I think having Gibson, who I think he kind of regressed when he came over here in that trade with Spencer Howard. I think Ranger Suarez is going to have a good year, but I don't think he's going to replicate what he did last year. I think there's going to be somewhat a slight regression in Ranger Suarez, but I do think he's going to find a way to somewhat replicate what he did last year. But like I said, there's going to be some slight regression with the Ranger. And then you got Eflin and I forgot who else is in that rotation. I don't know, but obviously we have. I mean, look, I think we have a decent rotation if our rotation stays healthy, especially Zach Eflin. Now, I think because me and Key kind of talked about this too. It's just like Zach Eflin is just it's the huge question mark for that rotation. It's because it's like if you looked at I thought he actually he was on a good pace to have a good year until that knee tendonitis just kind of knocked him out for the year. And that kind of hurt our rotation a little bit because that's when we had to rely on some of these other bullpen pull some of these openers in some games. Obviously, definitely use Ranger for a good chunk of part of the season. Kyle Gibson, like I said, kind of regressed, but still somewhat produced. I do think at some point, yeah. And look, I don't think this is like a full blown rebuild, as Dombrowski would say, but this is more like a retool. So right now, I think having some like Schwarber and Castellanos, yeah, granted, both horribly defensively, is that how? But they do make it up, in their offense. And honestly, with the universal DH, we're going to be mix and matching a lot of guys for be put in that DH spot, like give JT off some time off from behind the plate and let him DH, or you could do the same thing for Harper, Hoskins, whatever the case may be. I do think this team we can mix and match at the DH spot. The lineup's going to be very interesting though, because I think Schwarber's going to be leading off for us. I think he has almost over like a 360 batting average leading off. It's just something like that. I mean, you really got to get this offense started because it's like. I mean, and I said this too, earlier in the show, is that how this team, I mean, we got some good talent, but it just doesn't really, we just find a way to falter. Like, and I mentioned this too, like how Hoskins was getting hot at the right time. Unfortunately, that he hurt his core and his midsection area. Unfortunately, had to get surgery on that, which kind of ruined it. Pretty much kind of hurt us a little bit. Unfortunately, that allowed Harper to be the guy to carry that team on his back, and just how, even though it did lead into him winning the MVP, yeah, granted that it did that, but unfortunately, that didn't really help us. I mean, Harper did what he could to help with this team, but this team just faltered, and we always, and you go back to the time during the Clentek era. I mean, we had some good months, from like April to August were our good stretch of months. I mean, there were sometimes we had some bad teams. And it's how you got to think too, like, obviously, like take last year, for example. I think last year, the year before, I think last year, when we lost almost 2 or 3, and obviously with some of these bad teams like Pittsburgh, Arizona, Baltimore, some of these bottom feeder teams is like that's always have been for some reason always been a problem for us. Miami, I don't consider them a bottom feeder. I think they're going to finish like at least fourth. Because I think they kind of made some improvements in the off season, but I think, you know, I know Arizona, we got swept by them. That was embarrassing to watch. Losing 2 of 3 from the Pirates. Obviously winning game 3, which kind of ignited that 8-game winning streak for us. But yeah, it's just like, obviously, having, a new hitting coach in Kevin Long, which I do think he has. I feel like if the way that Mickey Moniak is going to go back to Mickey Moniak a little bit, the kind of spring that Moniak has had, I can think I can give some of that credit to Kevin Long, try to help readjust the swing pattern of Mickey Moniak. Yeah, granted, he was a number 1 overall pick back in 2016. Obviously, that, and being a number 1 overall pick has a lot of its pressures. Yeah, granted, he has been labeled as a draft bust, but I do think, if he could just be above average to be serviceable, I think we should be okay with him, because I think, and there are times it's like when he shows you that power, like it can most likely he can give you like 20 to 25 home runs a year. It's just like how this team wants to kind of see how this basically, in other words, try, because we don't want this team to falter. Because it's like if we do want to falter hypothetically, it's going to be ridiculous. It's like almost like the second year in a row we always going to be false rate, because it's like if some of these acquisitions don't work out, but I don't know. Maybe that's for me to be too soon to tell, but I do think this team is going to be very interesting to watch. We're going to see what Joe Girardi does, managing the bullpen and manage the starting rotation. Obviously, we already got the 3 guys started the 3-game series against the Oakland A's, which that's going to be one of the bottom feeders, especially in the tough American League West. I do think the Phillies should at least try to sweep them. I think that's kind of what their mindset is, because I think with the fire sale that, like I mentioned before in the show, how Oakland had that fire sale, and obviously the Phillies didn't really take advantage of that, which kind of annoys the crap out of me and many other Phillies fans. But it just shows this team, like sometimes we take some teams for granted. Not just the Phillies, but like sometimes the opponents. Like Miami's always been a pain in our side. I mean, you definitely. I mean, Mets, depending how healthy they are. And I think another guy. I think the Braves and the Marlins are the only 2 teams that are kind of a thorn in our sides. Now, granted, we can match up for the Braves, shot for shot. There are times it's like where we like I think a couple times we split them or at least take 2 out of 3 out at home. So, I mean, we have the ability to beat good teams, though. That is the thing, though. We have the ability to beat good teams. But there are times it's just not, the execution is just not there. It's just like, I don't think sometimes the execution is subpar, based on the fact that, like, obviously, if you looked at, we were like one of the worst defending teams in Major League Baseball, even definitely in the National League. I think having someone like Kevin Larkin who can, if he can fix kind of figure out the problem that Mickey Moniak was having with the swing, which I think that was kind of somewhat of an issue for him. Because I think we all know that Mickey Moniak does have some pop in that bat. But I think, if we can find a way to, because I think, and like I mentioned too, like even with this Bryson Stott coming up, the question is who are they going to or basically make room for off the 40-man roster for him to have that spot. For me, I'm not going to say Bohm, but I do think I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Bohm a little bit, based on the fact that I think his stock is a lot higher than Bohm's. It's just how this team at times, screw with players. I mean, think about it, with Scott Kingery, Scott Kingery, and what he would have been had if not if he did not change his position, if the Phillies did not allow him to change his position as much as they did, and that just ruined Scott Kingery. So, and I'm thinking too, because obviously with Stott has some experience playing third base in the minor leagues. I think that should not be much of a problem, but I do think that's going to really help, at least to some extent, because I think Bohm, if he does not bounce back, I think we might, because like we just did not feel like we hit on some good decent third. And I'll say this too, we really have not had a great third baseman since Mike Schmidt in the 80s. Obviously we have so many different short third basemen over the years. I mean, he still had Pedro Feliz. I don't even know the other guy's name, but you got Michael Franco, who could have been, but unfortunately that turned out to be a bust for him. I just think this team at times, we tend to find a way to. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the Phillies do not ruin Bryson Stott, because if that's the case, I think many Phillies fans are going to be super mad, because I think Bryson Stott, obviously, probably one of the better shortstop, one of the better prospects, other than McAble and Andrew Painter, which those are other prospects, which in the lower levels of the minor leagues. Is that how? I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here, but just kind of how this team just does not want to stick with one position, because you see like nowadays, like people are having multiple positions, and you're seeing it sometimes MLB The Show, like you're seeing these guys having secondary positions. Just let them play in their normal spots. Obviously, because I was really hoping we can get rid of Didi in order to have Stott come up and be our everyday shortstop, but I think Didi had a decent spring, which I think I think he had a decent spring this year. Since he is 100% healthy, which I think he's still an average to above average defender. Still an average hitter to almost like below average, depending on what days he's on or off. With Bohm, who knows with him? Granted, this is going to be his second full season in the league. It's just it kind of gets you thinking. It's like, because I do think, because obviously with Bohm making the open day roster, same with Bryson Stott. I just think this team. I think the Phillies do need to start Bryson Stott over Alec Bohm, because it just seems that Bohm. I don't know. There's something about Bohm I just don't like. And like, if you go back to the 2020 season, yeah, and like I said before in the show, that's like the worst time in baseball. But I think, because if you looked at how Bohm has played, I mean, defensively, I think he's a below average defender. But offensively, I think he's still at average to somewhat of above average. He does have some pop though, so will give you some home runs from time to time. I don't know. This team is just like, it's going to be tough, or it's going to be very, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. But just imagine there's going to be some rocky roads going on this 162 game schedule. I just do think this team at times, they just need to start taking the opportunity to start meeting these teams that at times kind of frustrates us. One of them, that's the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins always been our kryptonite here in the NL East, is we know how to beat the Mets. Granted, at times they're always the injury prone part of the Mets. The Braves, I mean, what's good, Jay Taco? Well, yeah, it's just like this, I mean, we know how to beat the Braves from time to time if you don't screw up. Yeah, I mean, it's just like we have a tendency, we know how to beat good teams, but at times we just can't execute at times in certain spots, which, let's be real, it just should not be as frustrating as it is. But with actually bringing back Bobby Dickerson, bringing in Kevin Long, who has ties to Schwarber, I think he did wonders on Mickey Moniak. Unfortunately, him having that broken wrist, being out for 6 weeks is very unfortunate because I think it looked like Moniak was becoming that serviceable player. Yeah, we play the A's tomorrow, Arku. We do play the A's tomorrow. Because I think we have so because we don't we got Noel starting for the first game against Frankie Montas. I don't know who the other two starters are for the Oakland A's. It's just at times that this team, and like I said too, like in before too, is like obviously the fact we have baseball back is absolutely amazing because it's like without MLB baseball, I would not be having shows like these. Talk about Phillies baseball. But yeah, it's just like kind of basically continue my thought a little bit is that how at times we have poor execution, and yeah, granted we are going to have a subpar defense. Yeah, you're telling me, hey, and this is why, and that's another thing too. Thank God for a baseball season. Because we all know that the best NBA season is wrapping up the regular season, but it is what it is. But obviously, with a lot of teams, starting, some got pushed back because due to inclement weather. But some teams that did play today, I think some of them actually look pretty decent. It's going to be interesting to see how this Phillies team is going to be playing against the A's, who, like I said, who are very abysmal. It's just how this team doesn't want to perform. Scratch that. Let me rewind that. With how this team, the A's, especially with the A's for the fire out that they did and did not make any news and the free agency in the all season period, kind of says like that team does, and I'm going to talk about that more. Definitely on the next episode of the Between the Lines podcast. Do not want to miss out on that very soon. But yeah, it's just like this team, and like I said too, the Phillies on paper we have good talent, and there are times like in certain spots, in certain situations, we can't. Sometimes we can execute some plays, sometimes we can't. It's just like we are hot, and we're like sometimes we can be streaky in some parts of the season. If you think about going back to last year when we lost 2 out of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who did lock up Brian Hayes, even though despite getting drawn some flack for not keeping their shortstop prospect up, but it is what it is. Once we lost 2 out of 3 from them and won Game 3, and that's kind of where we started our 8-game winning streak. Trying to get back because I think, let me see, from my memory, because we're like third place in the division. Yeah, because I think because the Braves were the fourth. No, wait a minute. Oh God, it's just I think at one point. No, that's right. We were in second because Braves were in third. Because I think the Mets were in first place for I think well over 100 days. But when the Phillies started getting red hot, winning 8, 9, 10 straight games in a row, and start catching up on the Mets when it comes to that's something I don't want to tend to see because I just don't want to see how this team we can't play catch up, especially in like somewhat of a weak division as the NL East. It's kind of annoying to see how this team wants to not do you got kind of execute. And definitely not squander opportunities, especially with runners in scoring position, which that was also Achilles' heel at times. When we get runners in scoring position, we can't take advantage of that. But now having someone like Castellanos, Schwarber, Harper, Hoskins, like we don't have to worry about that. Hell, even you could throw Bryson Stott in the damn lineup. He's another guy that can still get driving runs. It just shows that this team, like we're deep 1 through 7. Or I'm sorry, 1 through 6, but 7, 8, 9 in the lineup is kind of questionable to say the least. I don't know. It's just like how this team just wants to. I don't know. This is like I don't want to go on for too long, because I know this is probably not one of my longer episodes that I've done, but yo, what's good, Nate? What is good? But yeah, it's just like how this team. I don't know, man. It's just like I said, I think opening is going to be very interesting, especially because obviously for my Phillies playing against the abysmal Oakland A's. Um, yeah, I mean, then we got, but like I said, kind of before we wrap up here, because I know it's probably not one of my longer episodes will usually do because I've done like 3 1 hour plus episodes, but yeah, it's just like if I wanted to give a predict, I think on paper we have a potential to win at least a little bit over 80, almost close to 90 games. I'll say like between 88 to 89 games at the least. But I think the lowest we can probably go is 85 because I think we have some good offensive weapons, though. I think we do that. Even though defensively we are going to be absolutely terrible, but if we can play defense without making mistakes and execute, I think that's going to prove to people like to. Um, I mean, I think we could at least be from like not try to be like a terrible, but at least do like almost like a below average defense. But it's just how we just need to really take things into consideration. Obviously, what Kevin Long did with Mickey Moniak, which I'm still really high on Moniak. Even though he is been labeled as a draft bust, but I do think, and that's the thing too. Like some of these player development over sometimes it takes time. If it like say takes like 5 years for someone like to develop, and make an impact. I mean, look, in our times when we brought Mickey Moniak at times to the major leagues, yeah, he struggled, and rightfully so, because it's like, I mean, why have some like Mickey Moniak who has, let's be real, kind of just should let him just keep developing. I think also having some like a new hitting coach, I think really kind of helped. I think really kind of refined Mickey Moniak's swing. Especially now we're gonna have, we're gonna have Schwarber, Harper, Stott, maybe Didi, who's gonna be another left-handed bat. I think he's gonna be like I said, I think Didi at best is average to at least above average when it comes to offense and defense. Like I said before in the show. But you will see me again calling some Phillies games this year. You guys do not want to miss out on that. But yeah, kind of wrap it up. I do appreciate Arku stopping by. I think that's the first time actually I've seen him see Arku coming through my chat. Appreciate you guys coming through. Definitely leave a like on the stream. Hit that subscribe when you guys are new. We are 5 subscribers away from 400. That's going to be our next milestone. We can't wait to hit that, and we can do another merch giveaway. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for you guys tonight. I know it's probably not one of my longer episodes that I've done, but don't make no mistake, there's going to be another episode coming out very soon, and then you'll see another episode of the Sixers Top podcast as well. And then this Saturday night, you'll see me again at 9:30 to talk Eagles football and all that good stuff. Hopefully, you try to get some people on. Yeah, it's going to be some good experience, but I appreciate for those who stopped by, Jay Taco, Arku, Nate, appreciate you guys coming through. And I appreciate, whoever's the new subscribers hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it. Very grateful for that. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on Saturday night. Peace out.